Hey y'all, this is me coming back again with another video. Currently it's the last week of August and we are doing another book review. Now, I need to warn you, you're gonna see different clips in this video because I was trying to do this while I was out of town for a cool little event that I did with my friends. You know, I should probably pull that video together and do something with it. We'll see. I'll figure out what I'll do. But anyway, I had a really cool time with some friends and the lighting was amazing. So I went ahead and started doing my videos that I needed to do. Well, y'all, listen, I didn't get to finish the video, but I liked what I said and I liked how I said it. So I was like, I can't do it again. So we're going to put these videos together. So let's get into it. Check out this clip. Hey y'all, I am back again with another video, and this one is going to be a book review on Start With Why by Sinek, okay? So let's get into it. As you know, I've been doing book reviews kind of regularly now, and it's because one of the key relationships that all of us should be cultivating is your mind. And one of the ways that I do that is by reading. I'm always reading something, and I figured I would start to share it with y'all. So let's get into it. But before we do, let me introduce myself. Hey y'all, my name is Sonja of SonjaWCoaching, where we help amazing, go-getter, multi-passionate women learn how to make their dreams meet reality through understanding their why, living by their values or their life principles, and then learning how to execute those things, okay? There were a couple of things that I really enjoyed about Start With Why. Now, this book has been around for a long time, and actually, friends of mine have been telling me to read this thing forever ago. But, you know, I beat to my own drum sometimes. So I finally read it. And let me tell you, I should have read it a long time ago. So I need y'all to go ahead and read it, okay? All right. So anyway, I wanted to break down 4 key things that I pulled out of it. I ain't gonna give it all to you because you got to go get the book, okay? Because he has some details in there that I think are really, really poignant. And I don't know if I can do them justice yet, okay? So I'm gonna break down these 4 different points that really hit home for me and they're actually things that I'm gonna try to implement a little bit better in my own business to get me moving, okay? So the very first thing that really stuck out to me was his idea of the golden circle. The golden circle is kind of like the key or the linchpin to this whole thing. And he learned that there are 3 things in this circle that people need to do when trying to market or build their business brand, right? And those 3 things is to know your why. Legit know why you're doing it, and let it not be just the stuff like, oh, I build widgets that do things, right? But there's a why behind it that is super clear. He talks about Apple a lot in this book and how Apple really has a hone in on their why and why they do all the different things that they do. He talks about how your why needs to be clear, your purpose, your cause. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's not just because you want to make money, but it's because you believe that you're going to transform people's lives with it. So for instance, my why is that I know that when I get folks aligned with their values and aligned in their lives, that they're going to be able to make that dream, that God-given dream happen. So that's why I'm so key on living our lives intentionally, because intentional living means that you are focused and you are going towards the dream and the desire of your heart. And honestly, I believe that dream and desire is something that God has given you. So I think it's just so key that we make sure that we're doing it. And that's my desire, right? Then the second part of this golden circle is a how. Having a very specific how. How are you executing your why? How are you making that why happen? For me, it's living an intentional life, but also helping others by coaching them and building resources and all those different things, right? And then the final thing, and actually least important in his eye, is the what. The what, the thing that you're actually selling. Me, coaching sessions. resources, workbooks, things like that, right? Those are the kind of like, not the afterthought, because of course you should be putting thought into the products that you create, but without a clear why and a clear how to getting to that why, then you're not going to make it, right? So for instance, I know, again, I said my why is to align people with their God-given dreams and desires, right? And I do that through this 4-step process of acknowledgement, execution, living by principle, execution, and then finally winning at your goals, right? Like that is how I help people get to the next step, right? And how that works, or the what and how that works, is through coaching sessions, is through the resources that I provide, right? So that's the way that that works. And that's kind of like the key. Like he kind of brings the whole book together in this golden circle. But he really takes most of the day, most of the book, to talk about how important it is to understand and know your why, and also know how to talk about your why. I talk a little bit about that in a previous video, where it's so important about how you talk about yourself, and how you portray your why. But that's besides the point. The second one is that customers don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Again, he's with this why thing, because the why is so important. So a customer is not going to buy what you do. And he actually talks about the idea of TiVo. I don't know if you knew about it, but TiVo was, the thing where you can record a TV show or whatever beforehand, and then you can watch it at any point and any time, right? So TiVo talked about this thing. This is what they can do. This is what they can do. This is what they can do. But they never really established the why in the market, and never really established why it's so important that I buy this TiVo, right? And they actually went belly up. But we still say TiVo, right? We don't say it now because, it's so long ago. But back then, everybody was like, oh, I TiVo this. And it wasn't even a TiVo machine. It was their own cable who took up the idea or the what and was able to run with it. So it's just so crazy how that works. And that is the end of this video. So let's get to these last two ones. The last two is, if you don't know why your customers are your customers, you are going to rely on manipulation to keep them. Now, this one it hit me in my throat because sometimes I don't know why you buy. I know why I think you should buy. I think you should get into what I'm doing because I believe with all my heart that God has a plan for you, and we got to be intentional with the time that we have so that we can see it. But I don't know if that's the reason why you keep coming to these videos. I don't know. So that's why it hit me. But a couple of things, like just thinking about it, you're going to use random gimmicks to get people to buy your stuff, right? You're going to have random sales that make no sense. You're going to give away stuff that doesn't really seem to align with what you're doing. But you're going to do it because you're like, oh, I'm just going to start throwing things out there and see what happens. Now, there is some, what's the word I want? There is some benefit to trying out new things, but it's so important to really make sure that it hones in with your why and your reasoning. So for instance, I know that I am a generous person, and I truly believe that generosity is part of being intentional. And when you're intentional with your money, you're going to see your life change, right? So I'm always going to be generous. I'm always going to give, let me not say always, because never say never, never say always. But right now, I probably will always give free discovery calls, because I want to make sure that we're both on the same page before I even get together and work with you. Because if we're not on the same thing, then what's the point, right? And I don't want you wasting your money. That doesn't make sense to me, right? So I'm always going to have free discovery calls. I'm always going to give away things, right? For instance, if you're looking at this in the month of August and September, I'm giving away 5 free slots. You can look below. But anyway, that's besides the point. But I'm always going to be generous because I know the power of generosity. And I think that having a generous spirit is going to help each of us truly live with even more intention, right? Because we're going to be intentional with our money and intentional with our time so that we have the ability and the capacity to be generous. So that's really like my heart. But anyway, you got to understand your why so that when you do stuff, it makes sense. And that leads me to the last point. Your clear why is important. Having your clear why and making sure that it's understood is important. And I really liked it because in the book, he talked about two companies. I can't remember, but they're like two big box companies. And he said one company was like really major on community engagement. They were really a major on taking care of their employees and all that kind of stuff. And then the other company was not. And he said that this company over here that was really big on customer engagement and really big in helping out in the community and with their employees, they threw out an initiative and people rallied behind it because it made sense for who they are. It made sense for the values that they made loud, right? So they were like, oh, wow, this company is out here doing all of this for the community. Let's continue to follow after them. And then he talked about the other company where they were just throwing it out there because it was something good to do, right? Like, oh, we got to make sure that we look good for the people. So, hey, we're going to do this thing. And then they looked at them and they were like, the customers were like, well, why are you doing that? Like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you really actually care about people because I'm looking at the other 100 things that you've done and they don't line up with this one little thing. So I don't believe you, right? And that's the same with your own company. What do you typically do? And is it aligned? Is this new thing that you're doing aligned with who you are? And even with your own life, like people will look at your life, they see your life and they see what you've done and what you are doing. And then you go and throw out this new thing that's random. And they're going to be like, I don't know about that, right? I ain't too sure. But when you're consistent with those things, then they'll begin to see, oh, okay, he's real. He's telling the truth for that. Yeah. So that's really what it boils down to. This book was just so good. Like, I really, really loved it. And I'm sad that it took me so long to actually read it. Like, I'm so mad at myself for how long I took to read this book. Like, because it was so good. And I think it's going to be something that I'm going to really take some time and hone in on in my own business and the own things that I do in my life, in the things that I volunteer, the places that I volunteer at work, all of those different things, right? Because I think it's so important when we understand our why. So again, this book was Start With Why by Simon Sinek. The 4 things that really stuck out to me was the whole big concept, the golden circle. Customers don't buy what you do, but why you do it. If you don't know why your customers are your customers, you're going to rely on manipulation to keep them. And then the final one was your clear why is important. Okay, now listen, if you really want to get into this and really understand, well, how can I make my why more clear? How can I live intentionally with my own life and maybe even with your business? Come on over, let me help you. Go ahead and join my email list. The link is down below. Subscribe. Check me out. Let's see what we can do together, okay? And then come back here next week for the next video that we're going to be talking about, all right? I hope you have an awesome day wherever you are.